Okay, so to start out this lab, you're going to tell the students that you're working on isotopes. And I would do a brief review of what an isotope is, like the molecular structure like I drew first with the carbon and the extra neutrons. So that's what you're telling them first, and that's it. You're not going to tell them the trends in the isotopes. You're not going to tell them what the carbon and the nitrogen and the photosynthesis and any of that. You're just, what is an isotope? Have them discuss it with their partners. So you're going to pose that question, what is an isotope? Have them discuss it with their partners, draw it on their whiteboards, then get together as a class and discuss it, draw a diagram up front so they know what an isotope is. And then you're going to say, okay, isotopes are kind of a neat thing, and we're going to look at some things that isotopes can tell us. So what I want you to do first is just look at table 1 and answer question 1. Okay, so table 1 is like this, and they're going to see these different samples, and they're going to see these numbers, negative numbers, positive numbers. What does it mean? And just ask them to hypothesize different things that might affect the different isotopes that you have in your body. They don't need to worry about yet what that little delta symbol means or what the negative or positive is, just that it has something to do with the amount of the isotope in your body. Okay? And you can tell them that, you know, the negative, the smaller the number, so the more negative the number, the less of that isotope you have, and the more positive the number, the more of the isotope you have. Okay, and that works for both nitrogen and carbon. The smaller the number, more negative, or smaller here, the less of the isotope you have, the more positive, the more of the isotope you have. Okay, and just give them that, and then say, just hypothesize things that might cause differences in isotopes. And students can come up with all kinds of things. It might be their age, it might be what they're eating, it might be the air they're breathing, so where they are in the world. It might be how much pollution they're getting in them. It might be what water they're consuming. There's a number of things that the students could hypothesize that could possibly change the amount of isotopes that are available in their body. What poisons they're consuming, bad stuff. What bad chemicals they might be breathing. Like, they could come up with all kinds of things. The list is endless. You're going to write them all on the board and say, all right, so those are possible things that could affect the amount of isotopes in your body. So you can sort of hint at that maybe it really is what they're consuming. So it's something that they're consuming. And so if you look at table 2 looks like this. Table 2 gives you the 6 people that we took the samples from and a little bit about their lifestyle. Okay? But this is not in order of what's here, and you want to have students figure out a pattern. Try to figure out what kind of patterns, what could be affecting it, how the pattern goes. Now, students often get frustrated with this step. They're like, I don't even know where to start. Let them struggle with it, but you can give them little hints. So here's something I like to do when I start this activity. And so as you're walking around the individual tables, you can point this out. Say, all right, let's just look at these trends for a minute. So let's just look at the carbon. So we have really small numbers like 21.7, which, remember, remind them that this is negative 21.7. This is a very small number. So this is really, really low amounts of that isotope, whereas like negative 15.9 is higher amounts of this isotope. So if we were to label it, we might say, all right, so this is the lowest, this is low. The 19s, those are pretty low too, so we're low. But then we've got like this 17.5 here, so that's maybe sort of a medium amount. And then we have these really small ones like 16.1 and 15, I mean really big ones, 16.1 and 15.9. So these have sort of a high amount of that particular isotope. So there's some patterns. Now let's look at the nitrogen. Well, this one's definitely the lowest, so let's call that low. And then we have a couple in there that are sort of medium. Okay, and then we have these 3 that have really high amounts, with this one being high, right? This is really high, so I'm going to put high. And this one is high, and this one is high. Okay, so now we've got mutually exclusive designations here. So this person has really low this and high this. This person has sort of medium this and really high this. High, medium, low, 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 medium, high, high. So you can see that none of them are the same. So that might help us figure out some of the patterns over here. So then we're going to look over here, and I just wrote up a little table, and you might encourage them to do this. I wrote up a table of what I thought were the main things that I would notice from this. So I've got Jameson. Well, he's from England, so maybe location has to do with it. And he's a vegan. So what is he eating? Well, he's probably eating really high veggies. So I'm just going to say V for veggies. Really high veggies and pretty much no animal product. Now he's getting protein. but maybe animal has something to do with it. So he's got really low protein, so P. So, you know, because he's a vegan. Now we got Steven, who's young, he's a college student, he's eating a ton of junk food, he lives in the US, he's not getting very much protein. So he's got fairly low protein. And is he getting a lot of vegetables? Probably not a lot of vegetables, so really low veggies, but he is getting carbs. He's getting crap carbs, like ramen. So I'm going to say high carbs. I'm going to call them crap carbs. High crap carbs, okay? And then we look at Edmore. Edmore's from Africa, so he's poor. He's probably not getting a lot of food in general. He is a farmer, so he's probably getting some good vegetation, okay? He eats mostly native plants, so he's getting vegetation, but he's got low protein. So it's not no protein, but it's fairly, you know, I'm going to put mid or low protein. Okay, that's my mid, is that straight line. All right, and then we have Pavlokos, that is from the Mediterranean, and he's eating a lot of native vegetation. So he's getting high vegetables, but he's eating seafood, so he's getting tons of protein, right? He's getting tons of protein, but I'm going to specify that this protein is fish. Maybe that matters, maybe it doesn't. Obviously we know it does, but so he's eating a lot of fish. We've got John, who's from the US, he's fat, he's eating a lot of fast food, so he's probably getting very low vegetables, and he's probably getting a lot of protein, mostly cow, right? He's getting a lot of beef. If you're eating fast food a lot, we actually eat way more meat when we eat fast food than you would think, because everything is hamburgers or chicken nuggets or chicken sandwiches or hamburger and a taco. Like, we get tons of meat when we eat fast food. And then we have Gustav, who's from Europe, and he's a farmer, and he's eating livestock. So he's probably eating cattle, but he is a farmer, so he's getting vegetables, right? Not super high like some of these, like a vegan, so maybe medium to high vegetables. And he is getting protein. He's getting some high protein, okay? So if you can get the students to sort of notice the trends, then we can sort of try to match them up. So looking at our veggie content, it looks like we have some that are high and some that are low, right? So let's look at our two low ones. The low ones, we've got one that's got low protein and one that's got high protein, right? So we have to look here. Do we have two that are low, one high and one low? We've got these lows, right? One high and one low. So that might give us an indication that maybe these are these guys. Here we've got one that's really high right here. Do we have one that's really high protein? Well, we've got several that are high proteins, but we've got one that's like different protein. So that might tell us something. Looking here, probably our highest veggie person is going to be our vegan. So is that going to correspond to a high or a low? Do you see what I'm doing? So they should be able to match up some of these to indicate which person is which. So if we decide that we have to decide whether the low versus high here goes with the low versus high here. So here, let's just start with Jameson. He's got a really high veggie count and a really, really low protein. So if I were to look here, there is one standout on the protein. There's two standouts on the protein, right? We've got this person who's really, really high, and we've got this person who's really, really low. So either the really low corresponds to low protein or the really high corresponds to low protein. So then we need to look over here. Well, we know that this person, oh sorry, I'm up here. Okay, this person has really high veggie content. So if we look over here, we've got this person that's sort of a medium. It doesn't really correspond to the highest veggie content, but this one is the lowest value, right? This is the lowest value, so if this lowest value corresponds to the highest veggie, then it must mean that the lowest protein corresponds to the lowest. So if we can just pin down Jameson right there, okay, that helps a lot. So now we're saying, okay, so really low numbers correspond to high veggie content. So let's look at our other high veggie people. We have Pavlokos and we have Gustav. And they're different. They both have high protein, but one has really high fish. So if we're looking at our other people that are low numbers, okay, we have one that's sort of a medium, that doesn't help us a lot. We have a low-high, that helps us a little more. So somebody who's getting high protein and low there. Do we have our highest, let's see, I would actually, well, we don't really know. But we do have something with the fish, and maybe that gives us an indication. So let's say, oh, well, that's really, really high. Let's say maybe the fish has something to do with that. Would that fit veggie content? Yeah, it does. So let's say Pavlokos is that guy right there, okay? So then I might say, okay, let's turn this around. We've already assigned our lowest value. Let's look at our highest value. Our highest value here, where is it? 16.1. Our highest value here corresponds to a medium amount of protein. Our other high value corresponds to a really high protein amount. So we say, okay, we know high means low veggies. So our low veggies people are this guy and this guy. So Stephen and John. Who's getting more protein? Probably John, because we know Stephen gets low protein. So we can assign John to the high, right? Which means that the other high person with the medium, am I doing this right? Yeah, the other high person with the medium must be Stephen. Okay, so that leaves now we've got Edmore and we've got Gustav. So what's the difference between Edmore and Gustav? Gustav is eating more protein. So of our remaining two, probably the one with the more protein, number one, is Gustav, who's a farmer. Okay. And then Edmore is our last one, and he's right here. Okay, so that should correspond to your key, and it does. You've got a key in your instructor guide. So you're going to sort of help students make that connection. Once they've made the connection between high means this and low means this, then you're going to launch into, so I have everybody share their diagrams that they drew on their whiteboards, and then you can launch into the explanation that I did at the beginning. That, okay, so you're right? Very low numbers indicate more native vegetation. Very high numbers indicate either low vegetation, but they're not getting low carbs at all, right? They're getting some carbs. So what's the difference between the carbs that Stephen's eating and the carbs that Pavlokos is eating? Right? And they should be able to see that, oh, okay, so some of them are like healthy green stuff, and some of them are crap ramen, right? So it should mean that crap carbs correspond to, and it's not, I mean, corn is not inherently crappy, but most of the products that we eat that are kind of processed stuff are made out of corn and lots of sugar. So you can explain the photosynthesis, the C4 versus the C3, they've had it in class, so they should know it already, and explain that some of our corn and sugarcane are the main ones that use that C4 photosynthesis, and they happen to be in a lot of processed foods. So the more processed the food, so you're going to give them those general trends. The more processed the food, the less green the veggies, the higher your carbon-13 content will be, the less negative, it will be. The more native greens and vegetables you're eating, the lower it will be. And then the protein, you can tell them about the food chain, how it steps up with each level, because the more protein you consume, the more it bioaccumulates. Now the reason that this guy, Jameson, he's not getting low protein. He's getting protein. He's getting his daily amount, the amino acids that he needs. The difference is that he's getting his protein from plants. So he's one step lower on the food chain than someone who's eating a cow. So they're still both getting protein. It's just that he's one step lower on the food chain. So point that out, that it's really not low protein. He is getting protein. It's just that he's getting a different kind of protein. All right? Okay, so then in step two, I'm going to pause this actually and then do part two.